Hello everyone, and welcome to yet another week of Code Along with Joe Skeen. I'm Joe Skeen, and the last few weeks we've been working on the Angular Tour of Heroes tutorial from Angular.io. If you're just joining us for the first time this week, I'm hoping I won't lose you. You can always go back to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/user/digithead. Or you can just search for Joe Skeen and get caught up with all of the previous episodes. Today we're going to finish off the Tour of Heroes from Angular.io. Again, you click Get Started, and under Tutorial, you'll find all of the parts of the Tour of Heroes we've been covering. Last week we got into the HTTP and started on that. So I'm going to pull up my Visual Studio Code and get back into there. Let's see, Tour of Heroes. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me in the chat there or tweet me a question. I do have all of the things up here, so hopefully I should notice if you're trying to chat with me. In the future, we're going to try some voice chatting as well, probably starting next week. Cool. So let's look at what we have. I'm going to go ahead and npm start, which calls ngserve. And while that's happening, let's go ahead and look at the code and see where we were. Oh, it looks like I can open that up. HTTP :// oops, not HTTPS. Local host 4200. Cool. Okay, so just as a quick review, what we've got is we have our hero service that we have changed to be able to get things from HTTP. Now we're not using real HTTP here. We are calling API/heroes, but that's using our in-memory data service, which will simulate having an HTTP service there for us. Okay, so we first wired this up, and we've got all of this promise stuff, which is pretty awesome if you've never done promises before. But this week, we're going to take this even one step further. Let's go look at the tutorial and what we got here. Providing HTTP services, we did all this, simulate the web API, and we were using this before. We switched it over to the HTTP promise using the toPromise operator of RxJS we have right here. Okay. Now, did we do get hero by ID? We have not yet. So let's go ahead and implement that now. So we're here on the tutorial, module 7, get hero by ID. I'm going to pull this out so that I can look at it without blocking the view of what we're doing over here. So I'm going to throw this over here, that over there, make this like that. Okay. Maybe I should zoom this out just one there. That looks a little bit better. And collapse that. Okay. So I believe I mentioned this last time. Oh, we've got get hero by ID. Never mind. So we got that one working. Perfect. I did it a little differently than what they said there. Okay. So now what we need to do is if we go in here and we change Mr. Nice, you can see Mr. Nick is there now, but we don't have any way of saving that back. So if we go back to dashboard, we still have Mr. Nice. We also don't have any way of adding new heroes currently. So that's what we're going to do next. So we need to have an ability to save a hero detail. So if we go into our hero details, what we're going to want to do is create a save function. So we've got our ng on init that's loading stuff. We're going to create a new function called save. And we already know what the hero is, so we don't need to pass that into our save. Oh, excuse me, I've done a lot of C# this last few weeks. Okay, so what is our save function going to do? Well, it's going to return void, although this isn't really necessary. You can put it in there or not. But we want to do this dot hero service dot. Right now we've just got get stuff. We want to do an update and pass in our hero. And then when we're done with that, we'll want to go back. So you remember how we had that hero details. Now, I put this up in here and probably I shouldn't have done that. Let's go ahead and put it where it belongs. Back, if we go to our app component, I put this here that does the go back. Now I'm realizing why they did it that way to begin with. And let's throw that into our hero detail and stick it, and we'll stick it right here. Or actually right here. Okay, and then we'll have to grab that function out of here, this dot location dot back, which means I will need to inject location into there as well. I'll just go ahead and do this. Cut this whole thing because we don't need it in app component anymore. And get rid of that. That's going to be from Angular Common. Okay. Save that and go over here. We have location from Angular Common there. It's already injected, which is great. So we'll just do this. Now, probably want to keep the on init above that, but cool. All right, so now we're going to update the hero and then go back. Now, this update doesn't exist yet, so let's go and implement that. How are we going to implement that? Well, let's go to our hero service and create a new function called update. And we're going to pass the hero of type hero. Okay, so what we're going to need to do is our URL is going to end up being the same as it was for getting a specific hero, except for here we've got hero.id since we're passing in an entire hero. But instead of doing a get on it, we're going to do an HTTP put. So here we go. We have return this dot HTTP dot put, and we're going to call that at the URL that we just defined here. but we also need to provide it with some content. So we're going to say json.stringify hero. And what that function does is it basically just takes any JavaScript object and turns it into a JSON string, which is really handy when we're doing REST API stuff. Okay, and let's see. Oh, okay. What it wants to also add on to there is some headers. It is very useful to be able to do your own HTTP headers when you are doing REST APIs. So let's go ahead and add that up here. So what they've got is new headers, and this is something that exists. Where does that come from? lib.dom.d.ts. So this is a built-in JavaScript object, the headers. Awesome. Let's go back. Whoops. Okay, so this is going to be our headers. We're going to say our content type is going to be application.json, and we want to pass that as one of our parameters here in the put, this dot headers. And it's being a little slow, but that's what we're going to do. Oops. Actually, I have to wrap it in an object. Headers is going to be this dot headers. Okay, why does it not like that? Headers is not assignable to type headers. Two different types with this name exist, but they are unrelated. Huh. Well, that's interesting. Just looking here, that's what they're using, new headers. Let's see if we can figure out why that's the problem. I'm going to skip ahead and see if they have the entire thing. Search, component. And hero.service.ts. They're not injecting any kind of headers thing. Interesting. Okay, well, let's see what we can do to fix that then. Let's go look at our tsconfig.json. Okay, tsconfig.json. lib es2016 and DOM. Let me just compile or comment this out here and see if that changes anything. Whoops. Okay, so we've got our HTTP .put, and it still is complaining here. Property keys is missing a type headers. That's sad. Okay. What does it expect here? Request option args. What is it expecting here? Interesting. Headers.keys. Let's go back to the definition of this. http.put, and it wants a request option args, and that says headers is going to be headers. Headers comes from declare class headers, headers.d.ts. This is from Angular HTTP. Ah, here we go. So I don't know if there is some recent changes, but it looks like you actually have to import the headers for that to work. So let's go ahead and do that. HTTP, headers. And now it's happy. Okay, perfect. Oh, and I messed this up with the promise stuff. Let's go ahead and uncomment that. And if we go back, we probably have to reload TypeScript project. Let's see if that fixes it. Reload window. That's fine. Okay. Okay, now we're happy. Sorry about that, everyone. Okay, so we've got our headers, and we're passing those headers into the put. Now, what do we do when we are done with that put? Let's see here. Just getting back to where we were in the tutorial here. So we're doing that. We're going to do a toPromise, return the hero, and then catch handle error. This is pretty similar to what we've already done. So let's just go ahead and throw that in there. So convert this observable to a promise, and then when the promise resolves, then we're going to return our hero. But if something goes wrong, we're going to handle the error. Okay, we've got it. All right, let's go back to, well, close this, and that, and that. Here, you can see this is happy now, and we're good. I'm going to throw a semicolon in there. Now, let's see. Let's go ahead and reload this. Oh, when I reloaded VS Code, I actually killed our server that was running in the terminal there. That is one reason why you might want to put your console window that's running this outside of VS Code. I just like how convenient it can be to just run it right inside there. Okay, so, oh, I thought I moved the back button there. Let's go check this. Have component HTML. We only have those two. Do I need to clear the cache? There it is. Okay. So I go into Mr. Nice, and we've got our back button there. I totally messed up all of the CSS there. Let's see. Where's our back button? Let's grab that and put it into Hero Details CSS file. Okay, so now we should have a nice back button there, which takes us back here. Sweet. Okay, so we need to have a save button now. Where did I put that? I thought we'd done that, but apparently not. So we're going to do a button. When we click, we're going to say save, and it says save here. So now we have both a back button and a save button. So if I go back, it goes back. I go to Narco. I'm going to put an exclamation point at the end of the name, push save, and now we've got Narco with an exclamation point. So that's really all that there was for that. Now if you're implementing your own app, you'll probably end up doing a lot more stuff on your back end with the REST API. And later on in our series, we'll actually be doing that. We'll be creating a server and, oh, excuse me, that will be backed by a database. and doing all that stuff. But for now, this is working with the in-memory mock database. Okay, where does that put us next? So we need to be able to add new heroes. That makes sense. If we can change them, we should be able to add or remove them. So now we want to go back to, let's see, in the heroes component HTML. So that's this one with my heroes. Right before our, right after the heading, we're going to create a new button that will have the ability to add. Now I'm realizing here we just moved this CSS to the hero detail for the button. That's probably not where we want it because we want it to look the same every place in the app. So let's go ahead and put it in our styles.css and save that. Let's make sure that our hero detail still. Okay, view details, back save. Okay, things are looking pretty good. So if we create a button on our heroes component .html, let's go ahead and close everything else. I've got a lot of stuff open right now. Okay, so right here we want to add our button to create a new hero. So I'm going to use some Emmet syntax here. We're going to do a div, and then under that, a label. And look at that, label. In this case, I don't care the for. Hero name. Anyway, I really do like the Emmet syntax. I don't know if I've mentioned that on here before, but it makes it really fast for generating new tags here. Input. And okay, so what they're doing in the tutorial here is we're just saying we're going to name it hero name. That's a variable name within the template. And then we've got button, click, and that will be add hero name dot value. So basically we'll have a text, a text input named hero name, and then a button that when we click it, it'll grab the value off of this input, whatever's typed in, and pass it to the add function here. Okay, and there's one other thing we're going to do, hero name dot value equals empty string. So we'll call add and then we'll clear it out so that we can create another one. Inside this button we'll want to put the text add so that we know we're supposed to be adding. Now obviously this doesn't exist yet, so let's go ahead and create it. Coming back into our heroes component TS, we've got our onSelect and go to detail. We'll just add a save. Actually, sorry, we're on add. And we're going to pass in the name, which is a string. That's what we'll type in to our text box. Okay, so we've got that. Now, this is what we're going to need to do. Obviously, we don't want a hero that just has spaces for a name. So we're going to trim that, and if that ends up being an empty string, we're just going to bail out. Say, nope, sorry, can't create a hero that doesn't have a name. Now, we could add validation and stuff like that. Here, we're just going to jump out, and the user just has to realize, oh, I guess I can't do that. in the real world, and in the next app that we'll be building, we'll do a lot more with validation. Okay, so here's service. We're going to do create, and then after that, we're going to put it into our list of heroes. Remember, we've got our array of heroes here. So we're going to create it, and the service will return a hero. We'll push that into the array and select nothing as our selected hero. I kind of wish that instead of this, we could just select the hero we've just created so we can do stuff with it. I think I'll actually go ahead and do that. Okay, so going back to here, we're going to say name equals name.trim, so we don't have any trailing white space. If our name, so in JavaScript, all values are truthy or falsy, and in a if statement, you can put any value in here, whether it's Boolean or not, and JavaScript will evaluate whether it's truthy or falsy. Truthy values, as far as strings are concerned, is any string that doesn't match the empty string, or like that. Or if it's null or undefined, then those are all falsy values. So basically, if not name basically says if this name string is not truthy, if it doesn't have any kind of content in it, we're just going to go ahead and return. Goodbye. Okay, so this is where we actually do the real work. This.heroService. And what are we going to do with it? We're going to create. Well, we don't have a create function yet. We're going to pretend it's here. In reality, I usually go from the bottom up on these kinds of things so that I have my auto-completion all ready for me, but this tutorial goes the other way around. So when it comes back, then it's going to pass back a hero, and we're going to do some stuff with that. We're going to this dot heroes dot push that hero, and then after that we're going to this dot select a hero. They want you to do equals null, but I'm just going to put dot equals hero, so that way we can view the newly created hero. I think that's a nice user experience there. Okay, so moving on, of course it's going to blow up because we haven't done it in the service yet. So let's go to it in the service. Here is service. We're going to create a new create. And it is going to pass in a name string. Oops. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a post to be able to create this new hero. Oops. And I think that the reason why we're doing a post and not a put is when we're putting an entire object up. Right here we've got an entire hero object up. When we're doing gets, we can pass whatever parameters for the query, and post, what we're doing is passing a partial object or something that we're going to create something new from. Okay, so we're going to do this .http.post. Okay, and what we're posting is this .heroes URL. So if we post to API heroes, then that's saying we're going to create a new one. And what we're going to pass it is JSON.stringify. What are we stringifying exactly? We're not going to just pass the name. We have to create, this is basically our heroes object right here. Name. Or in ECMAScript 2015, you can just do that, and it's happy there. Okay, so, and then we want to do Again, this is why we saved the headers to an instance variable, this dot headers. Okay, when we're done with that, we're going to promise it so we don't have an observable. Then we're going to return the result as JSON, and then we're going to grab the data property of that resulting object and cast it to a heroes. Oops, that's hero. There we go. If something goes wrong, then we're going to handle the error. Okay, that's it for our create. Now if we save this, it should come back up here. So let's go back to our heroes, and we've got hero name and add. We're going to say Mr. Incredible. It's one of my favorites. And add that. We have Mr. Incredible as my hero. You'll see he's at the bottom of the list there. He has his own ID. That's kind of nice. That's working great. Okay, so now we've been able to add heroes. We can change heroes. We need to be able to delete heroes. This time I'm actually going to deviate from our nice little tutorial here. I'm going to go from the bottom up here. I know I want to do a delete, so I'm just going to go ahead and define that in our class here, in our service class, because I want to have the auto-completion all the way through. So when we delete, I want to use this ID here, this URL with the ID, because we're going to delete a specific hero here. We're going to pass the ID in, it'll base the URL off of that, and then we'll go ahead and this .http .delete. It's nice that HTTP has all of these methods built into it. It's almost like it was designed that way. URL, headers, again, this .headers. Okay, now to promise, then what is it going to pass back? Well, we don't really want to pass anything back, so we'll do whatever it passes back, we're just going to pass on a null. And of course, as always, if something goes wrong, we're going to handle the error. Alright, that was easy enough. And we've done this enough that you should understand by now what's going on here. So in order to call this, we'll want to call this from our component, and we will do delete, and we'll do an ID number just like we did there, and we'll just say this dot hero service dot delete ID. Okay, but that won't be enough because we have to actually remove it from this array here. So we're going to say dot then, whoops. What do we want to do? Well, we want to say that this dot heroes, so this is the list. We're going to reassign this list. We're going to do heroes, but we're going to filter out the one we just deleted. So we say h goes to h.id equals 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 id. And again, this is strict equality, saying not only does it have equivalent values, but it also has the same type. Okay. Except for this won't do what we want, because what this will do is we're going to filter So we're only going to show ones that match the ID. That's not what we want. We want to do not equals ID. So that will return a list of ones that do not include the one we just deleted. Great. Okay. So then the other thing we want to do, and this is the tricky part, is if we have that hero selected, we don't want to keep that hero showing. So this dot selected hero, if that is equal to, we need to pass in an actual full hero object here so that we can say if this equals hero. So we'll have to fix this to hero.id and hero.id. Okay. So we're passing in the entire hero object here. Delete that ID. When it comes back, we filter out ones that match that ID. Actually, we don't even need to go with the ID here because we can just say if that is not the same as the hero. Just completely filter it by the object reference here. Okay, so if the deleted hero here is the same as the selected hero, we want to select nothing because it doesn't exist anymore. Okay, so that should work. Now, of course, we still can't delete this hero. We need to add some HTML for that. Okay, so we want to have a little X button that we are going to add to each of these so that we can delete it. Going back into our hero component HTML, see, this is all still sore because we did it backwards, and it's happy now. Okay, but it won't be that way for this one because we've done all the stuff in the background first. So adding after hero name, so we can span, I don't know why I didn't do that before. We're going to add a button, and we're just going to put a little X in that button. Our click event, ng click, why would it do that? That's not Angular, that's Angular.js. There we go, click. Okay, and we're going to do delete and pass in the hero. And look, it's happy with us. Yay! The other thing we want to do is this event object that is available implicitly inside of this click event. We want to stop it from propagating the event. Propagation, if I could spell propagation. Basically what that's doing, let's go ahead and see this in action and then I'll show you. Oh wow, that is really ugly. Do we need to put some CSS in there? Delete, delete, delete. Aha. Yes, they do have some CSS here in our tutorial right here for that. So let's go ahead and add that to our components CSS. Button.delete, we're going to float right, margin top, margin right, background color, color. Okay, save this. That didn't do anything. Oh, you know why? Because this is button.delete, and we didn't add a delete class to our button here. So let's go class equals delete, save that. Much better, much better. Okay. All right, so where were we at? So let's go ahead and test this, Mr. Nice. Bye-bye, Mr. Nice. Okay, so that worked. Now, what would happen if we got rid of this event.stopPropagation? Save that. Reloading, we've got Mr. Nice back because we're just doing this in memory. If I click this, whoa, what the? It selects Mr. Narco as my hero and then deletes him. See, what it's doing is our button we've got a click event on here and a click event on here, and so it'll do both the delete action for, or the click action for selecting the hero as well as deleting the hero. And so that's why you've got that. That's why we need to have our event.stop propagation, so it says, you know what, I've already handled the event, don't go any further, don't handle any more click events. And that will be much better. Now we can delete Mr. Nice, and it just works the way we want it to. Okay, so we've now completed all of the CRUD operations, that's create, read, update, delete, for our HTTP service. But there's so much more we can do with our data API that we aren't able to do because we're using promises. Now, what I'm suggesting here is not that we go back to synchronous programming. The promises are great as far as making things asynchronous, but we can do a lot more if we don't think of the data coming back as a single object, but as a stream of objects that could be updated any time. So let's say that we had instead of having a server that is just returning a single object, what if we had a real-time database we were hooked up to, and it would publish updates every time something changed, and we could just see it appear here automatically. The way we've got it with promises, that's kind of a one and done thing, like get this and I'm done. I'm not going to reload. If I need to reload, I'm going to call the service again, and I don't want to do polling on that service. Enter observables. So this is a very important part of our whole understanding of how Angular works, especially some of the key differences between AngularJS, or Angular 1.x, and the new Angular 2 and greater. So, you remember that HTTP service returned an observable. Let's actually just go ahead and close everything except for the service for now. Close that, close that, close that. Okay. So when we do a post or when you do a get, we're getting an observable of type response. What we can do with that is, instead of doing .toPromise, actually use that observable throughout our app. Observables come from RxJS, which stands for Reactive Extensions JavaScript, and they allow you to think of objects over time and treat them kind of like if they were an array of objects that you already have. It'll make a little more sense as we get into this, but let's go ahead and try, well, okay, so we're going to do a search operation. So for now we'll keep the promises as they are, but we'll do a search service so you can search for heroes and you can start seeing where observables are appropriate. And then we'll play around a little bit more with them. Okay, so we're going to go in and create a hero search service. Hero search.service.ts. Now at this point, I'm kind of feeling like this service stuff is starting to kind of crowd this folder here. I'm going to go ahead and create a folder for our services. Oh, you know what? I forgot. We are using the Angular CLI here. Let's go ahead and do this the Angular CLI way. If I create a new terminal, I can say ng generate service, and we're going to call it hero search. Boom. So now we've got hero search.service.ts, and Angular CLI has already gone ahead and injected it into our main module, I believe. Let's see here. Hero service. Oh, it didn't. How sad. I thought it would. Okay, well that's okay. We can just do hero-search.service. Change this to hero search service. Okay, but anyways, I was saying I like to separate things out when you get too many of them. So I'm gonna put services in their own folder. Throw that in there. Throw that in there. And like that. So we've got our services and their accompanying specs right there. And now that's going to make it so we have to go ahead and fix it here. This is going to be services. There we go. So now we've kind of got that separated out and we have it a little more focused here. Now this is actually a service as well. I'll throw that in there. Whoops, not in there. There. Okay. Things are getting a little bit more clean on our front end here. So let's go into our services, our hero service. We'll make that ////. Actually, the mock heroes only matter to the hero service. We aren't using them anywhere else. So we can just put that there. Okay, mock hero. We're gonna fix all of this stuff because I think it's worth it right now. Our app's getting big enough where we want to restructure things slightly. Okay, and we're definitely going to be broken. All of these places we're calling the hero service. Services. And here, services. And here, services. Let's see if this works now. Okay, the mock hero service is not liking it. Except for it is. Let's see if I need to just and our module. Oh, services. And doesn't seem to be working. Sometimes you just need to reboot the whole thing. So let's go back to our original command here. That was really weird. It doesn't usually do that, but if all else fails, just start it again. Okay, so now we've got all of our services in their own services directory. We're happy with that. And what we're going to do is we're going to, in our hero search service, we want to be able to have a service that will search through our available heroes. Now this is going to be a little bit trickier than what we've done so far, but I know you can handle it. So we'll go ahead and inject our import from Angular HTTP, and we're going to import HTTP, which we inject here, private HTTP of type HTTP. Okay, so we've just done our dependency injection. What we'll want to do next is create a function that you can call in this service to search for a hero. Our search term is going to be a string. Now, what we're going to return is an observable. Now, in order to get that, we're going to need to import from our XJS observable. Okay, and it's going to be an observable of hero array. So basically we're saying our search terms are going to be translated into, oh, we need to import hero, import from hero. Okay. So we're going to translate our search terms into a stream of heroes. So here we go. Return http dot get this dot http dot get the URL we're going to use this time, and remember to use the tick mark rather than the quote mark, is app/heroes/ and then query parameter name equals and our term. We're using string interpolation here so that we can inject that variable into our string. Okay, and then when it comes back, so if you've done anything with JavaScript, you probably dealt with some array operators like filter, map. With observables, you can do the same kinds of operators. So we're going to map, except for apparently we need to add the map operator to observable. Import, this time we're actually not using that syntax, we're just going to say rxjs add operator map. Okay, so basically when it comes back, we're going to have a observable of type response. We're going to map that observable of type response to its corresponding JSON. So instead of doing .toPromise.then, we're actually keeping it as an observable, but we are transforming that response to something else. And we're returning that observable directly. Okay, so how is this actually going to be used? Well, let's go into, we're going to create a hero search component to use this. Go over here, and we'll say ng generate component, and this is going to be called hero search. Okay, and it's gone ahead and updated everything for us. Yay! Service is generated but not provided. It must be provided to be used. That was for our search service. We didn't actually put it in here. We need to put it in our hero search service. There we go. But our search component's already been wired up because the CLI does that for us. Yay! Okay. Let's go into our brand spanking new hero search component. We'll need to provide a template I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste this right now. So basically, what are we doing here? We've got our hero search title, we've got a search box, and you'll see that just like the click event, we can bind to any DOM event using the parentheses in Angular. So on the keyup event, we're going to call search on our controller, our component controller, that will grab this search box's value and stuff it into that function. And then we're going to do an ng4 over the heroes that we have, and we're going to go ahead and create one hero name that if you click on it goes to that detail. Okay, so let's add in our code for, well, they've got a bunch of CSS. Let's go ahead and add that before we get too far into here. Save that, and our component, just because we're running short on time, I'm going to go ahead and just paste this in and just kind of talk through it a little bit here. Okay, so, oops, slash services slash hero search service, and this will be // hero. Okay, so we're adding a bunch of stuff in here. We've got the observable of operator, we've got our catch and our debounce time, distinct until changed. We'll talk about those when we look at the actual implementation here. So we've got our search terms, and that's going to be a subject of type string. Now subject is an observable object that you can basically use as a source of data for an observable. We're injecting in our hero search service and the router, because remember we've got, we're going to, let's see, with the router, oh yeah, we were going to do a go to detail later on here. Going detail hero ID, that's pretty self-explanatory. Now this is where things get really kind of crazy. When you do search, we're going to do search terms.next term. Okay, well what in the heck are we doing there? Our search terms is a subject, which basically we're going to wire up our subject search terms so that whenever you provide it with a new value, it will transform that value into a list of search results. So let that sink in for a second. Basically, the subject will have the implementation that it will go ahead and turn our search terms that we type in, it'll transfer them into an observable of hero array. How do we do that? So this .heroes is an observable. We're going to take search terms, and whenever a new value comes in, we're going to go ahead and debounce it. So basically as you're typing, it doesn't constantly search, it'll wait until you've finished typing. It'll wait 300 milliseconds. And if you haven't changed the text that was in there, it will just go ahead and ignore it, so we're not calling the API needlessly. Okay, so this is where it gets crazy. Switch map. So every time the term changes, we're going to switch to a new observable. So we're going to pass the term, and this is the value that's being passed in right here. So it'll be passed into here, and if the term exists, basically if it's truthy, if it's not an empty string, then we're going to call hero search service.search. But if it's not truthy, if it's just an empty string or whatever, we're just going to return observable of hero array, empty array. So basically, it will clear out that term there. If something goes wrong, we're going to also do a empty array, and we're going to log that error to the console. Okay, let's see if this actually works. Now, I think property search does not exist on hero search service. I'm pretty sure it does. We may have to reload this again. I probably have something going on in my computer that's hosing this. Okay. And we're just about done here. I hope we can get through this quickly. Search terms. Okay, while we're waiting for that, okay, there we go. Okay, so one thing we haven't done is made it so that we can actually get to this new page. Yeah, yep. Read through all this stuff when you have the chance because it's good. Flat map latest. Oh, okay. Import the ArcsJS operators. Okay, so we need to add the search component to the dashboard. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go to our dashboard and add that in. We've got that dashboard component HTML. And we're going to add this search stuff down at the bottom. So we'll do hero search. Save that. And we've got nothing. Oh, because we're on heroes. Let's go to dashboard, hero search. That's kind of weird. We don't really want that to be right there. Let's do a hard break before it. That's weird. I don't know why it's doing that. Anyway, we'll do our search here. And we'll search for nah. Hey look, we've got narco. And it's kind of giving us our results. When we click on it, it goes to narco. Magma or magenta. Cool. Alright, so let's see what do we have left here. We've already got that. And basically this is the end of the Tour of Heroes. Now, I'm still not sure why this is showing up here. We probably need to do something to div, we'll do like a style clear both. There we go. Because we're basically all of these grids here. If we go and look at the dashboard CSS, we have they're doing a float left. We don't want for this to continue floating left on top of all those. And so we just do a clear both, and that will make sure that it goes down to the next line. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I hope that this exercise has been useful to you and has helped you to get acquainted with some of the core features of Angular. Starting next week, we're going to make it even more interactive. I'm going to have a Discord voice channel that you can join and be able to ask questions in real time with your voice. And we're going to start this new project that I mentioned a few weeks ago, where we're going to create a personal inventory app where you can put together whatever things that you have that can be borrowed and allow other people to borrow them from you and check them back in, keep track of all that stuff. So it's going to be really exciting. We're going to dive into a ton of different technologies as you and I go together with this brave new world of the real-time web. So I'm Joe Skeen. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Hope you'll code along with me. Thank you.